This is Hong Kong during the Easter holiday. The doors in front of shops are desolate, few visitors in sight, and business is dismal. The streets and subway stations are also empty. Even the bustling Mong Kok area has far fewer people than usual.
Hong Kong has become a ghost town. Where have all Hong Kongers gone? During the 10-day Easter holiday, many have travelled north for vacation. The popular high-speed train tickets were completely sold out. Earn in Hong Kong, spend in Shenzhen. It's just so ideal. Over Easter, a total of 1.9 million people from Hong Kong travelled north to spend their money in Shenzhen, while fewer than 500,000 went south. The food industry in Hong Kong is struggling. Many restaurants have shut down, and the revenue during the holiday dropped by more than 30%.
I estimate that this year, at least 200 or 300 eateries will close. I've been in the food industry in Hong Kong for over 30 years. Since the borders reopened last year, I believe many in the industry feel it's getting harder to do business. The trend of spending in the north and the local owners being out of touch has put many establishments in crisis. In the past, merely improving food quality and marketing could make a difference, though not always significant, but at least my business revenues were increasing steadily. But now I see no hope. In the past month, at least 100 shops have closed in Hong Kong. Since the pandemic ended and the borders reopened, Hong Kong's economic recovery has been depressing. Coupled with Hong Kongers' revenge spending in the north and changes in tourist spending habits, staff shortages, and increased rents, many shops have been forced to close. According to a Hong Kong news report from March 31st, at least 10 stores closed in one day, including the bustling area of the Central District, independent bookstores, and some restaurants. This has left locals feeling helpless. The wave of business closures and the gloomy economy are looming over Hong Kong, with shops closing everywhere and for rent signs going up. Even long-established businesses are forced to shut down reluctantly. The primary reason for the decline is Hong Kong's struggling economy, accompanied by rising prices and reduced incomes for many residents. This has naturally led to decreased spending power, resulting in successive closure of local shops. Conversely, with its lower living costs, China has become an attractive option for Hong Kongers. Hong Kong residents also share their thoughts.
Hong Kong is much quieter than before. Everyone is going north to spend their money. The wheel of fortune has turned. Everyone's gone to China now. It's cheaper to shop there. Especially in the northern area of Tuen Mun, just 1 or 2 stations away from the border, there's really no business left. Previously, those areas used to be packed with shops and long lines of people.
Currently, there are many large supermarkets opening in mainland China, attracting a lot of Hong Kongers. It's cheaper than spending in Hong Kong, so whole families are heading north. Tuen Mun is very close to Shenzhen Bay Port, and some older residents can get to China with just $2. The spending craze of Hong Kongers traveling to mainland China has even revived shopping malls in Shenzhen that were on the brink of closure.
Hong Kongers have brought new life to the once nearly doomed Imperial Court Plaza. The most popular destinations in Shenzhen among Hong Kongers include Liantang Port Commercial City, Imperial Court Plaza, Shekou Market, and Sam's Club. Imperial Court Plaza in particular was quite desolate before the borders reopened. I went there and it felt really empty, with many shops closed. And now, see, it's packed with people, and 200% of them are Hong Kongers. If you want to have a meal or buy a bubble tea on the weekend, you definitely need to line up. As someone who grew up in Shenzhen, I've never seen so many Hong Kongers here. While I can't speak for other places, Imperial Court Plaza and Chef Bao have definitely been rejuvenated by Hong Kongers.
Since the end of the pandemic lockdowns last year and the reopening of borders between Hong Kong and mainland China, traveling north to spend money has become a norm for Hong Kongers. Data shows that in 2023, non-cash payment amount by Hong Kong residents in Shenzhen was approximately 8 billion yuan, marking a 70% increase compared to the previous year. The enthusiasm of Hong Kongers for consuming in the north is primarily due to a few reasons. Firstly, the depreciation of the yuan has increased the purchasing power of the Hong Kong dollar. This year, as the yuan continues to depreciate, every 100 Hong Kong dollars can now exchange for about 92 yuan, a decline of at least 15%, prompting more Hong Kongers to spend their money in China. Secondly, intense competition among Chinese businesses, which has been engaged in price wars for survival, now sees an opportunity due to the spending power of Hong Kongers. Shenzhen, particularly in the Hutian and Luohu ports, even introduced promotional events offering Hong Kong dollars at par value with the yuan, effectively giving Hong Kongers an additional 8% discount. These promotions have led to crowded malls and shops. The northward consumption trend by Hong Kongers has led to a downturn in Hong Kong's local retail sector, with supermarket sales in 2023 falling by 5.7%. The retail sector is one of the few remaining employment opportunities for young people in Hong Kong. The closure of numerous physical stores means that many young Hong Kongers have lost their last source of livelihood, creating a vicious cycle that seems irreversible. Moreover, it has also become trendy for Hong Kongers to seek medical care in Shenzhen. According to media Hong Kong 01, Hong Kongers choose to visit hospitals in Shenzhen for cheaper costs and shorter waiting times. The University of Hong Kong Shenzhen Hospital has become a top choice for medical care, with online dental appointments on Friday afternoons being instantly booked out. Hong Kong's public hospitals are essentially free, but the need for a third-tier referral and the long waiting times are unimaginable. For instance, there used to be one patient suffering from hernia who was only scheduled for surgery in a public hospital 6 years later. The fees in private hospitals are steep, with just the registration fee already costing at least 500 yuan, which is unaffordable for those without commercial insurance. Additionally, more insurance companies in Hong Kong are now offering Greater Bay Area medical insurance, which allows for reimbursements after receiving treatment in certain designated hospitals or top-tier public hospitals in the area. To save money and hassle, Hong Kongers are even purchasing medical insurance in Shenzhen. Consequently, Shenzhen's medical companions are also taking advantage of this trend. They assist Hong Kongers in dealing with social security cards, specialist appointments, and medical guidance, some easily earning over 10,000 yuan a month. With Hong Kongers' increased consumption and medical visits to the north, Hong Kong is gradually integrating into mainland China, with wealth also moving northward. This development aligns with the preferences of the current CCP leaders, who aim for Hong Kong to fully transition to the Chinese governance model and ultimately becoming just another mainland coastal city without status. This transformation is also actively pursued by Hong Kong's chief executive, John Lee Ka-chiu. In his 2023 policy address, the first 38 pages were dedicated to fostering patriotism towards China, aligning Hong Kong's management model with that of mainland China, and integrating the region into the Greater Bay Area. The gradual Sinicization of Hong Kong is leading to the loss of its core values as a bridge between China and the Western world, a role that has been fundamental to its development as the largest financial center in Southeast Asia. In recent years, there have been widespread claims that Hong Kong is transitioning from an international financial center to a financial wasteland. Although some dispute these claims, the data is compelling. A well-known financial blogger, Lao Man, used data in a recent video to illustrate this transition. In his video, he first discussed core financial data of Hong Kong, specifically the stock market data released monthly by the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Lao Man analyzed core data from 2018 through the first quarter of 2024 as shown in this table. One crucial figure is the financing amount in the Hong Kong stock market, an indicator of the region's financial activity. Higher financial activity attracts quality businesses and investment funds, corresponding to a larger financing scale in the stock market. The data shows that 2020 and 2021 were the years with the highest financing amounts in the Hong Kong stock market, exceeding 700 billion Hong Kong dollars each year. This is largely due to many Chinese tech companies listed in the US returning to the list in Hong Kong because of the China-US split, thus significantly boosting the financing scale for those years. However, the situation sharply declined afterwards, With the loss of Hong Kong's bridging role, capital quickly withdrew and the financing amount plummeted to $250.9 billion in 2022, a nearly 70% drop, continuing to fall to $150.7 billion in 2023. At this financing level, Hong Kong can no longer be considered an international financial center. Deloitte recently stated that in the first quarter of this year, there were no new listings in February, and even no China concept stocks returned, resulting in only 12 new listings throughout the quarter, raising 4.7 billion Hong Kong dollars. Both the number of listings and the amount raised fell by 33% and 30% year over year, respectively. Based on IPO fundraising, Hong Kong's global ranking slid from 5th last year to 10th, falling behind emerging markets like India and Saudi Arabia. In the first quarter, the financing amount in the Hong Kong stock market was only 26.5 billion, down 20% from 33.1 billion in the same quarter last year. Deloitte maintained its earlier assessment that there would be 80 new listings in Hong Kong throughout the year, aiming to raise 100 billion yuan. This figure is roughly comparable to the Thai stock market, indicating that Hong Kong's financing capability has virtually evaporated. With the loss of financing capability and further withdrawal of funds, Hong Kong stock index has also plummeted. In February 2021, the Hang Seng index was at 31,000 points, but has now struggled down to 16,000 points. The daily transaction volume of the Hong Kong stock market has fallen to less than 100 billion and is expected to drop further. Judging from the trend, by the end of this year, it will probably only be around 70 billion, unable to support the current 2,600 stocks as a once international financial center gradually becomes an international financial wasteland. Hong Kong's previously relied upon re-exportation is also now in severe contraction. For a long time, mainland China's foreign trade businesses have exploited Hong Kong's preferential policies and circumvented trade bans from Europe and America, making Hong Kong the largest re-exportation port in the world and the leading port in terms of container throughput. However, this began to falter following the street protests in 2019. Additionally, as Western countries have begun treating goods entering and exiting Hong Kong the same as those from mainland China, revoking Hong Kong's preferential trade treatment, the port's re-exportation function has rapidly deteriorated. This is reflected in the shrinking trade data between Hong Kong and mainland China. In 2021, Hong Kong's exports to mainland China were valued at $378.5 billion US dollars, but by 2023, this figure had dropped to $297.5 billion US dollars. Imports from mainland China decreased from $312 billion in 2021 to $259.3 billion in 2023. Given the trend of gradual decoupling from China by the Western world, Hong Kong's re-exportation trade figures are expected to continue shrinking dramatically in 2024. Before 2019, Hong Kong's port consistently handled over 20 million containers annually for a decade. However, in 2023, the port managed only 14.4 million containers, marking a 13.7% decrease and dropping its global ranking to 10th. Recently, several major global shipping alliances have excluded Hong Kong from some of their routes. According to a recent report by Splash247.com, a Singapore-based international shipping news outlet, major shipping alliances have announced network changes for this year and the next. These alliances, including the Gemini Corporation, formed by Hapag-Lloyd and Maersk, THE Alliance, and the Ocean Alliance, are now excluding many routes that previously included Hong Kong. The report highlighted that for the Gemini Corporation, the southern Chinese city does not feature as a direct port at all. One of Hong Kong's four major industries is professional services, which primarily serve the financial and trade sectors. The collapse of these two major sectors has led to the downfall of professional services as well. Bloomberg reported that one of the big four accounting firms, KPMG, is set to close its SF Lawyers law firm this month. Another big four firm, EY, closed its LC Lawyers in January. The withdrawal of professional services from Hong Kong significantly impacts employment, office rentals, and various service support providers. The greatest impact is on the affected employees' ability to pay for housing and the valuation of commercial properties, which in turn affects the financial sector. It is widely accepted that Hong Kong has lost its status as a financial center. As the region transforms into a financial wasteland, the local government faces inevitable fiscal challenges. Financial analyst Lau Man predicts that, given the severity of Hong Kong's fiscal deterioration, the complete downfall will occur within 2 years. Data shows that in 2019, Hong Kong's fiscal deficit was $10.6 billion, largely due to that year's intense political movements. The subsequent fiscal deficit of $232.6 billion in 2020 and $188.4 billion in 2022 were understandable, being impacted by COVID-19 lockdown measures. However, in 2023, when the Hong Kong government's primary goal was to achieve a balanced budget, the result was a staggering deficit of $207 billion, a figure that exceeded many people's expectations. With these continuous deficits, the Hong Kong government has been compelled to use its fiscal reserves, which were accumulated through years of careful spending. In 2019, these reserves stood at $1.1 trillion. By the end of fiscal year 2023, only $685 billion remained. About the fiscal budget of 2024, the Hong Kong government has ceased its struggle and directly set a deficit budget, anticipating total revenues of $633 billion and expenditures of $776.9 billion, resulting in a deficit of $143.9 billion. However, this budget is virtually impossible to achieve. Firstly, the projected revenues are unattainable. The government's revenue has already been in sharp decline, reaching less than $500 billion in fiscal year 2023. With the deepening financial ruin, it is impossible to return to over $600 billion in fiscal year 2024. Furthermore, fiscal expenditure pressures are all rigid. The government faces unavoidable costs, including maintaining high salaries for public servants, addressing the needs of an increasing elderly population, and covering rising social welfare expenditures. This means that Hong Kong's fiscal deficit in 2024 could reach $300 billion. Thus, the government's reserves of over $600 billion can only sustain for another 2 years. After that, the Hong Kong government will have exhausted its reserves and will be in a state of severe financial distress. Therefore, restoring fiscal revenue growth has become the most pressing governance goal for the Hong Kong authorities. The first solution they have come up with, a method commonly used by various levels of government in mainland China, is to stimulate the real estate market to revive land sale revenues. According to data from the Hong Kong Land Registry, the peak year for residential transactions was 2021, with 74,297 units sold. In 2022, this number plummeted to 45,050 units, with a 40% drop in housing prices. In 2023, transactions continued to decline to 43,002 units, with a 7% price drop, reaching a 10-year low. In the first 2 months of 2024, only 5,852 transactions were recorded, a further 20% drop compared to 7,333 units in the same period in 2023. To stimulate the real estate market, the Hong Kong authorities announced on February 28th of this year that they were removing all restrictions on mainland Chinese buying property in Hong Kong. They will also lift all limitations on mortgage loans for multiple properties, effectively resetting all regulatory policies. Real estate agents and the media enthusiastically predicted that this would inevitably trigger a major boom in the Hong Kong property market. However, this optimism may be unfounded. In the face of an irreversible decline, how could simply removing some regulatory measures boost the prosperity of the core real estate market? The Hong Kong Land Registry has just released the residential transaction data for March this year, recording only 3,971 units. For context, in March 2023, there were 6,690 units sold. This indicates that the month following the removal of regulatory measures, transaction volumes in Hong Kong's property market plummeted by 41%, which is double the rate of decline observed from January to February. the so-called thriving market transactions are essentially a facade created by the media and real estate developers. Based on such data, it can be said that Hong Kong's property market is officially doomed. The Hong Kong authorities' fantasy of using the property market to boost fiscal revenues has undoubtedly been shattered. Therefore, a comprehensive view reveals that Hong Kong's once competitive industries, finance, and re-exportation trade are gradually fading away, leading to a stagnating real estate market. Additionally, consumer spending has been strongly siphoned off to Shenzhen, resulting in rising unemployment and economic recession, marking the inevitable process of Hong Kong's integration into the mainland. Soon, Hong Kong may just become another ordinary mainland Chinese city, losing any special functions and value it once held. During this financial decline, the collapse of the Hong Kong dollar system appears inevitable and is likely to trigger a collapse of the Chinese yuan exchange rate system. Such an outcome would be unfavorable for both Hong Kong and China. Nevertheless, under the firm direction of the CCP leaders, this irreversible process has already begun, potentially marking the destiny of Hong Kong since its reintegration with mainland China.